Welcome to the Off Market All Day Intensive. We are here today to network together and for a full day of education. And by the end of today, you guys should have a complete marketing plan ready to go either tomorrow if you want to get motivated and start reaching out tomorrow, or Monday morning, totally up to you how you run your business. Me personally, I'm not working tomorrow. After today and this week of preparing for this, I'm taking the weekend off. I was going to work on my car this weekend. I have a hot rod and I'm completely rewiring it right now. And I was going to continue rewiring the hot rod this weekend, but it's going to be a little cold. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. So we'll see how the weather goes. That said, we do have some weather coming into where I'm located this afternoon. Hopefully that won't affect this. If it does, we have backup measures in place. If this whole thing crashes, don't worry, we'll reschedule it and get it done. I'm not just going to not do this because the training I put together today is going to be pretty fun. So let's talk about the agenda that we're going to do today. So I'm going to minimize everybody here. If you don't, let's see, everybody is muted. Thank you, everyone. Good job. All right, so for our agenda today, what are we going to cover? Well, we're going to start after I get the agenda done. I'm going to throw you guys into breakout sessions so that you can introduce yourselves. We'll see how many we have on. We're at 76 right now. We'll see how many we have on when I get through the agenda and through my own introduction. And then I will pick the number of rooms. I'm going to throw you in the rooms for about 10 minutes. So I'll probably put 5 people in each room. So I'll divide up the number of rooms that way. So that you guys have a couple of minutes apiece to introduce yourselves. Then we'll go into session 1, which is called Goals and Roles. I really should rename it to Goals and Numbers, and I have renamed it to Goals and Numbers. I just forgot to rename it on this slide. We're going to talk about your goals and how you can reverse engineer the numbers that you need, knowing your metrics. Those are the keys. So we're going to identify what they are. And I'm going to show you the worksheets that we use to do that when we get into that section. So we always need to start with the end in mind. We begin with the end in mind. And that's why we always start here with goals. Okay. Then in session 2, we need to go find a market. So if you have been through my strategic partnering workshop or my strategic analysis workshop, you know that I am really, really big, and I teach for the CCIM Institute market analysis. And there are very, very in-depth ways to determine a market when you use economic-based analysis. We are not going to cover that today. So thank your lucky stars that we aren't, because I'd lose every single one of you within the second session. It is a monster. But instead, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to identify a market, where it sits on the market cycle chart. And for those of you that have been watching my YouTube videos lately, you probably have an idea of where we're going with that. And then how to identify how can the market rebound quickly by looking at jobs, specifically types of jobs. And that's how we start to identify our markets. And then for the Platinum members that signed up for Platinum and my strategic partnering community members, I got a little surprise for you when we get to finding your market. Then we'll see how long we've taken to that point, how much time you guys want for lunch, knowing we still have 2 more sessions to go. And then we'll go to lunch, and then I will open breakout rooms at that time so that you guys can network with each other even during lunch. Then we're going to talk about the $1 million message, and it's just a fancy way of saying value proposition. It just sounds so much cooler. So how do we talk to owners? How do we get them to communicate back to us? How do we capture their attention? What do we say to them? What questions do we ask? And not just owners, because if we find an opportunity, we still need partners to help us close on the opportunity. Or if we're not looking to close on an opportunity that we found and potentially don't like, maybe we can pass that on to somebody else. So we also have to build relationships with other people that can take some of these deals down. So we'll talk about both owners and other syndicator sponsors and partners that can help you get rid of deals you don't really want and still get paid. And I'm not talking about wholesaling. Then we'll get into the marketing plan. So everything we're going to do up to this point leads to that marketing plan. And then I'll show you exactly what to do and how to put together a marketing plan. And for the VIP and the Platinum members, you guys got the marketing plan sent to you already. For those of you that have been to the members area for where the recordings are going to go, all the documents are already uploaded. There are 8 total documents for these 4 sessions. Okay, the 2 marketing plans, one for your off-market strategy and one for your email marketing, both of those are uploaded so that by the end of today, you will have a completed marketing plan, or at least through the weekend, because it's going to take you a little time to update it, but you'll have all the tools available to be able to complete that marketing plan. Then we'll do a final Q&A, okay? And that is the agenda for today. So basically what I've done is I have created a system that I've used for quite some time. And I've looked at that system and I said, okay, can I break this system down into 3 phases and 9 steps? And I did. And here was the result of what I found. And what I'm going to do today is we are going to cover these 4 sections. So you will have the foundation done. And the reason I'm doing this is because most people won't do the foundational work. They want to go out and they just want to start calling owners. Right? But there's a whole lot of foundational work you need to do before you start doing that. Because what happens if the owner says, yeah, okay, I'd consider selling. Now what do you do? If you don't have relationships built already, if you don't know whether the market can sustain or not, if you don't have the underwriting correct, all kinds of different factors, we got to get those foundations perfect, okay? Or not perfect, but done. And so the first 3 are phase 1, that's the foundation. And then I thought a great deliverable for ending this would be the getting your action plan or your marketing plan for both buyers and owners. And so that's why I included that under phase 2 for opportunity. So this is where we're going today. And then at the end of today, I'll let you know how you can get access to the rest of these steps, actually implementing those marketing plans, putting in automations in place, getting traffic to those automations, what to do at the closing table, and then what to do with the money once you receive it. Those are the remaining steps for this entire acquisition process. I call this my strategic acquisition method. So just a couple of minutes about me. I'm not going to go into some 20-minute sob story and how I was homeless and how I had this epiphany and like you hear from everybody else, right? We're not doing that. So I'm David Monroe, CCIM. That is my primary email address. Write it down, memorize it, don't forget it. I do respond to my emails. I am a multifamily investor and a strategic consultant. I used to broker. I don't broker anymore. I stopped brokering in January of 2021. I am a CCIM instructor. There's only 60 instructors out of an institute of 13,000 members. So we're a very elite group, and I teach advanced market analysis strategies for the CCIM Institute. I am also the VP of marketing for the tech board for CCIM. I am a foundations board member. This is my last year as a foundations board member. It's a 3-year commitment. This year is my last year. That is the capital raising arm for the Institute. I am the CCIM Ward Center Committee Chair this year, another 3-year commitment, co-chair last year, chair this year, past chair next year. So CCIM likes 3-year commitments. I am the founder of the Strategic Partnering Community. We have a lot of Strategic Partnering Community members on here currently on this call. I'm a former syndicator and now passive investor. And at one time, I used to own a property management company. So if I start talking about operations, and we won't really get into operations today, or I start talking about property management, I may know a thing or two. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt and the spoon. And the best education in this business I have ever received, by the way. Okay, so that's it. That's enough about me. Okay, no sob story, no epiphany, none of this other crap that all these gurus like to do to get you to sell you stuff. I'm not doing any of that. All right, this is about you. This is about education. All right, so that said, that's the agenda. Any questions on the agenda for today? All right. You guys ready for some education?
Educate me.
All right. So Sean, I need a little backup help from you or anybody else.
Sure.
When I put us in a breakout room, or when I'm changing presentations, or after we're done with the Q&A, remind me to stop recording and start recording again so that we can break these sessions up into individual sessions so we don't have one long stinking 8-hour recording.
Yeah. So are you going to stop it now and then restart it?
No, because it was just agenda.
Okay.
I can download this one and maybe cut out that breakout session because there's 10 minutes there of just emptiness. But I'll take care of that one. That was my fault. All right. I am going to minimize. Everybody will mute. Anybody have any questions before we get moving? We got a long day ahead of us, but a fun day ahead of us. Now everybody's like, no, just get to the meat of this stuff already. All right, I agree. Let's get to the meat of this stuff. So I've got my chat box up.
Market.
Let's see. Can you please mute if you don't mind? Who is that is unmuted? Right there. Okay, good. Everybody's muted. All right, I'm going to put this right here because that'll allow me to pay attention to that. All right, so I've got my chat box open. I've got the participants open. We're currently at 90, so welcome everybody and thank you for being here. Let's talk about how to set our goals and identifying our numbers, not roles. It was changed. So what are we going to cover in this session? Well, we're going to talk about goals. And if you know me, you know I do not use the SMART framework. I use the SMARTER framework. And I did not create the SMARTER framework. I learned it from one of the foremost experts on time management, and his name is Michael Hyatt. I really, really enjoy a lot of Michael Hyatt's teachings. And one of the things I took away from Michael Hyatt was his SMARTER framework. So we are going to dive into that for a minute or two. Then we need to identify your what. So I call it your what. Napoleon Hill calls it your definite chief aim. And Gino Wickman calls it your, I can't remember, but we'll have it in a second. Then we'll get into your why, because we need to stay motivated. If we don't have a why, and if we don't tie our why to our goals, we're probably not going to accomplish them. Then we'll get into your numbers. We're going to reverse engineer. Let's say you want to make $500,000 in the next 12 months. We're going to reverse engineer how to get there. And for the VIP and Platinum members and my strategic partnering members, I've created spreadsheets for you to be able to utilize. Now, there's one that I created that the strategic partnering members have had for a long time that I used when I was a broker. Well, I listened to my strategic partnering members. It just took me a long time to listen. And I modified it for investors. So if you're investing and not brokering, I now have two. So I will be showing both of them in this lesson today. Then we need to talk about your plan, because just because you have a goal doesn't mean you're going to accomplish it. Everybody says you won't accomplish a goal unless you write it down. That's true, but it's further than that. You need to tie it to your why, you need to tie it to your what, and you need to create a plan on how to accomplish that goal. So we'll get into that plan. Then we'll talk about action steps to move you to step 2 of this 9-step process, and what you need to do for that. And that'll, of course, go along with the worksheets and the spreadsheets that we're going to have for you in this session. And then we'll have a Q&A before we break for a few minutes and then go to step 2, which will be identifying your market. So where are we on our 9-step process? We are right here at goals and numbers. Okay, that's where we're located. So we're going to start this by, you'll see throughout this, I've got some quotes, some of my favorite quotes that I have spread all over the place. This is one of my favorite ones, and I learned this from a gentleman that is a coach. His name is Rich Litvin, and he says in his book, "Don't close a sale, open a relationship." And I absolutely love that. As a salesperson for the last 12, 13 years, that really resonates with me. because if you're trying to close a sale, people get standoffish. But if you want to build a relationship, they attract to you. Okay. So just keep that in mind, especially if you're raising capital. You never want to sell anybody on an offering. You want to offer an opportunity. Okay. Build that relationship. Oh, come on, technology. There we go. All right. So let's talk about the smarter goal framework. Okay. The S is specific, just like with SMART. So SMART is specific, measurable, attainable. I hate that stupid word. It should be stricken from the entrepreneurial language. Relevant and timely, meaning it has an expiration date. That's the SMART framework. Well, now we're going to do the SMARTER framework. We do have a few of those still in the SMARTER, and we've added a couple and replaced a couple. So first is specific. It needs to be specific. So if I want to make $500,000 by the end of this year, I can't just say, I want to make $500,000. That's not a goal. That is a wish. That's all it is. You got to get specific. I want to make $500,000 from multifamily investment transactions in the next 12 months and reinvest 50% of that into passive deals or joint venture opportunities. See how specific that is? If it's specific, then you can create other goals with it or be able to create those action steps. So it must be specific. It's got to be measurable. $500,000 is measurable. We can measure that. If I want to lose 100 pounds in the next 12 months, that's measurable. I can measure 100 pounds. If I want to be rich, is that measurable? If I ask a question, it means I'm expecting feedback from the audience, either through text or unmute. Right. It's not measurable, is it? Nor is it specific. Okay. Must be measurable. Is it actionable? Are there action steps that I have to take? Notice I've replaced attainable. Again, that word should be stricken from the entrepreneurial language. And you'll see why in the next when we get to R. And I highlight that. But you must have to take action steps in order to achieve this goal. So it must be actionable. Risky. Okay. We got to go beyond our comfort zone. Because if we're not growing, we're what?
Dying.
That's right. If we're not growing, we're dying. Okay. And so that word attainable, are we growing with attainable or are we dying? See why I've replaced it? Okay. Or why Michael Hyatt replaced it. I just use this framework now. So it must be risky. It needs to take us out of our comfort zone so that we can grow. And you know what? Who cares if we don't reach it? If we get 80% of our $500,000 goal, we just did 400 grand. Last year, we only did 100 grand. Woohoo! What a year. Even though we didn't achieve that goal. Everybody says you don't want to create a goal that you can't achieve. Bullshit. Okay? Yes, I said it. Bullshit. We want to push ourselves or we're never going to grow. It's got to have an expiration date. It must be timely. Okay, that one goes without saying. Next 12 months, next quarter, 3 weeks from now, 6 months from now, whatever that is. Always give it an expiration date. It's got to be exciting. Okay, it's got to tie to your why. It must be exciting. Okay, how exciting would it be to make $500,000 in the next 12 months and be able to take 50% of it and reinvest it into other deals that you now either own yourself or you're getting passive investing through it. And you can take 30% of that and be able to pay off credit cards, pay off bills, do whatever you want to do with it in your personal life. And I say 30% because we should always take 20% and put it away for the tax man, whether we have to pay it or not. Okay. So it's got to be exciting. And it's got to be relevant. If I'm investing in multifamily properties and I say I want to make $500,000 in the next 12 months from sales. Is that relevant? Probably not. If I want to make $500,000 from triple net investments, is that relevant to multifamily? Probably not. Now, you may have a diversified strategy, so you don't want to say in your specific goal, multifamily investments, you can say from real estate investments, then triple net investments would be relevant, okay? So it just needs to be relevant. So this is the smarter framework: specific, measurable, actionable, risky, timely, exciting, and relevant. Now, how much better is this than that stupid SMART framework everybody talks about?
Much better.
Much better, right? If you don't like it, say, no, this sucks. What are you talking about? You're an idiot. I'm okay with that.
No, especially your risky part. I mean, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, because you're never going to improve and you're never going to grow if you don't take some risk. And that's what most people aren't comfortable with.
That's right, Sheree. 100%. 100%. So, all right. So that's the smarter framework.
Nothing growth related ever happens in your comfort zone.
That's correct. All right, folks. I just want to say it. We just hit 100 attendees. Woohoo! Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Ooh.
I love seeing triple digits. I don't get them very often. So, mark that time, 9:39 a.m. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay. All right. So, I don't know who said this, and I don't even remember where I heard it, but I thought it was freaking brilliant. 97% of those that quit in entrepreneurship are employed by the 3% that never gave up. Write that down, take a picture of it, mark it in your brain. If that doesn't make you motivated, I don't know what will. Okay, there is so much truth to this. All right, so let's talk about your what. What is the what? Well, this is the ultimate prize. This is what we're going after. For me, I've done this a couple of times. I've set some what's over my life, and I'll talk about in a minute. The very first one I set, even though I didn't realize I was setting it, but it saved my life. And I'll explain that with a quick story in a minute. So Napoleon Hill calls this your definite chief aim. Okay, it can be 5 years from now, it can be 7 years from now, it can be 10 years, 20 years. It's what is that ultimate goal, that prize that we're going after? For most of us in the multifamily world, it is generational wealth. Maybe it's to build one of the largest companies in the multifamily community. Maybe for me, it's to knock a certain guru on his ass. What is that ultimate prize that you're going after? Okay. Sean knows what I'm talking about. So Gino Wickman called this your 10-year target. So if you guys have ever read Gino Wickman's book, Traction, that is the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS. When you're setting goals, you start with your 10-year target and you reverse engineer from there. Gino is another brilliant individual when it comes to creating a 2-page business plan, not some 30, 40, 50-page piece of junk that you'll never read again, just a quick 2-pager. And we were building, when I owned my property management company, we were building the property management company utilizing the entrepreneurial operating system. It's a wonderful thing. A lot of multifamily property management companies utilize that system. One of them is a favorite of mine, McKinley Properties, based out of Orlando, Florida. And Jason, I know you're on here, and I know you know who I'm talking about. Okay. So quick story before we go into what you are creating your what for. The very first time I ever set a goal, a definite chief aim, a 10-year target, and of course it was a 12-year target in this case, I was 6 years old. And I don't remember this, but my family would tell me this as I was growing up and going through elementary school, junior high, and high school, that when I was 6 years old, I set a goal to be a Marine, a United States Marine. I don't know why. I don't know what triggered it. I just know from my family telling me that at 6 years old, I said I was going to be a United States Marine. And I lived that all the way through my high school years, where I needed to be a Marine. And that saved my life, because there was a time where I was homeless in high school and I could have easily given up and I could have done the easy thing and just partied and, worked at McDonald's and done all this other stuff. But in order to join the Marine Corps, you must have a high school diploma. So I did absolutely everything I could to stay in school, even though I had no help from family. I was on my own. At 16 years old, I was on my own. And so by the time I graduated high school, within 3 weeks, I was in boot camp. And it was that definite chief aim, that 12-year target in this case, that I set when I was 6 years old and never even realized that's what I had done. I got chills talking about it. Love that story. So that's how powerful having that ultimate prize is. And you tie it to that why. At this time, I didn't know what the why was. My why was I wanted to be a Marine. That was my why. I wanted to be a Marine. And I made it happen. I spent 11 years, 4 months, and 16 days in the Marine Corps. Okay. So I did it because of a goal I set when I was 6 years old. Otherwise, who knows? You would not be talking to me right now if I had not set that goal. So some examples of what you set that goal for is to build a company. Maybe you want to build that large multifamily company. Okay. Maybe you just want to build wealth. Okay. My current what is to be financially independent from multifamily investments by the time I'm 55. I set that goal when I was 42 years old. I'm only 2 years away from it and I'm not there yet. So I got some work to do. I've never missed a what. I've always achieved my what's. The most recent one was to become a CCIM instructor, and I achieved it 2 years ahead of schedule. The one before that was to become a CCIM, and I achieved it right on schedule. That was a 5-year target. Okay, so building wealth is another one. Cash flow could be another what, maybe a certain number of cash flow that you need every month because you want to replace a W-2 that you can't stand working. You want to be an entrepreneur and you need that cash flow in order to be an entrepreneur so that you can comfortably be able to quit your job. I'd say get rid of the word comfortably, because if you feel comfortable, you will want to stay comfortable. Or maybe you just want to do it as a side hustle. But whatever that what is, we've got to identify it. All right. And of course, we need to make it smarter. Okay. So who can tell me who said this one? I bet almost everybody in this group knows who said this.
That would be Napoleon Hill.
That would be Mr. Napoleon Hill. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it will achieve. Why do I have believe in all caps and red?
And that's the most important part.
Without the belief, you're not going to do anything. You've got to believe what you're doing. That is the key to this statement. It took me many years to figure this out. I read that book for the first time, Think and Grow Rich, in 2008. And it wasn't until about 2015, 2016, where I finally realized that belief was the key statement here. So let's talk about your why. It's not what you think it is. Okay. My why is to build generational wealth. No, it's not. That's surface level. Okay. There is a deeper reason why you want to build generational wealth. Okay. Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins in their mastermind.com, thank you, Tico, teach 7 levels deep.
Yep. 7 questions.
Yeah. 7 questions. So if you say, I want to build generational wealth, ask yourself why. That's taken you to level 2. Level 1 is, I want to build generational wealth. When you say, all right, why do I want to build generational wealth? That takes you to level 2. Then you say, no worries, April. Then you say, well, why do I want to do that? That takes you to level 3. If you keep doing that 7 levels, get down to that 7th level, I can almost guarantee. Now, there's a 5% of you that won't ever cry for any reason, but 95% of you will have a tear coming down your eye. Now you've emotionally tied your why to what you're doing. And now you have something that you can grab a hold of every time you hit a roadblock. Okay. And we'll talk about those in a minute. Somebody want to play? Want to do a little role playing? If you don't mind getting vulnerable.
Yeah, let's do it.
Who said that? Who said, okay, let's do it?
Oma saying, and I'm sorry, my computer camera is not working. I was on my phone earlier. I wasn't on camera.
I'm not even looking at everybody's thing. I got to see my presentation. So I don't
No
even see
problem.
you guys. So I'm not worried about it. All right. So great. I love it that a male did it, because if I can get a tear out of Oma, we're doing good. All right, Oma, what is your why?
It's to build generational wealth.
Go figure. Why do you want to build generational wealth?
I'd like to provide a different life for my kids than what I had.
Okay. So, why do you want to build a different life for your kids than you had?
Because I realized, how not being in the financial situation that, or at least a positive financial situation, can lead to unnecessary stresses in life. And I just don't want that for them.
Okay. Was there something in your life that caused unnecessary stresses?
Yeah, I feel like I never got a chance to maximize my potential because I was limited by resources.
Okay. And so what did not being able to maximize your potential and limited resources cause in you emotionally?
Oh my goodness, it impacted my confidence for several years, probably about a 10-year period where I didn't believe in myself the way I did when I was a young man, like 16, 17, 18. And so I think if I reflect on my life from 19 through 29, that 10-year period, I definitely wasn't as confident as I was, as a maturing young man, adolescent, I should say.
Okay. And so how did that not having that confidence affect you emotionally? And why does that matter to you?
Why does it matter to me? Because, man, I mean, if you're not accomplishing goals and becoming who you're supposed to be, like, what are we doing here? And I felt like there was just a decade lost of, not being able to get to who I truly am. And not until I was able to reflect later and then remember who I was through, deep thought and reflection and a lot of manifestation did I become who I was before, and been kind of carrying that momentum through life through now. But then, as you reflect on it, you're still never where you could have been if you were, provided with the right opportunities, that some of my peers and colleagues were.
Okay, good. So I'd say that you actually were good at 6 levels. You didn't have to go 7. And I kind of sensed a small choke up there, but I don't think we got a tear out of you. So I think your why is tied to your self-confidence and making sure that your family or your children don't ever lose that self-confidence and feel how you felt when you had lost it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You agree?
Most definitely. Yeah.
Okay. You guys see how that works? You just got to ask the right questions. Yeah, everybody give Oma a hand. That was awesome. Got to be a little vulnerable to do that. So for me, mine drilled all the way down to what I had talked about a few minutes ago about becoming a Marine. I was homeless for a period of time when I was in high school. Most of my junior year, some of my senior year. And I don't ever want my family or my kids to ever have to go through what I went through. And that's what my why ties to. Okay. So you've got to make it emotional And if you can get a little tear coming out or a little choke up, like we got a little small choke up out of Omaha on that on 0.6, and you don't necessarily have to go all the way to 7. If you can get to 7, that's even better. But he's stuck right around that self-confidence on 7. So great job. Appreciate you playing with me on that. All right. So your why keeps you going. Okay. Because you're going to get to a point where you get tired. It's just like, God, you just keep doing this and doing it and doing it, and nothing's ever happening. I'm tired of doing this every day. You're going to get stressed. Okay. You're going to get overwhelmed. If you're in strategic partnering community and you go through my 14 module monster of a course, the strategic partnering workshop, you're definitely going to get overwhelmed. So you have to be able to tie into that why to keep you moving forward. Okay. All right. So this is from Myron Golden. Anybody here know who Myron Golden is? And there's 3 points to this. This is just the first one. Good. There are a couple of people that know who Myron Golden is. He wrote a book called From the Trash Man to the Cash Man. I love me some Myron Golden. This guy is amazing. I met him back in September at a big conference. He's got multiple sclerosis. And so one of his legs is 2 inches shorter than the other one. So he has a real hard time walking, gets around in a wheelchair and different things like that. And yet he's one of the wealthiest African Americans that isn't tied to tech in the world. The guy is freaking amazing. And he's just a great person. So I learned this from him. And I heard this in a webinar one time, and I wrote it down. And at the time, I had thought that I wanted 20,000 a month, that was my number, until I saw this. And then I shot right through it. So it says, you will never make more than. Seldom will you make as much as the amount you believe is a lot of money. Write that down. And if you didn't get chills right now, something's wrong with you. Okay. When I saw this and I wrote this down and I studied it and I realized what it actually said, I slammed right through that glass ceiling above me. Okay. We cannot go any higher than what we believe is a lot of money. So you need to break that ceiling, because I guarantee you the number you have is too low. I can promise you it's too low. Okay. So that segues us into your numbers.
David.
Yes. Go ahead, Jason.
But wasn't in the book? I can relate to that. Wasn't in the book?
No, it was not in the book.
Oh,
It was something that he said in a webinar, and it wasn't even his webinar. He was a guest on the webinar, and he just threw that quote at us, and it impacted me.
What was his name again, David?
Myron Golden.
Myron Golden, and what's the name of his book?
From the Trash Man to the Cash Man.
Cool, thanks.
Okay.
That screen again for 1 second.
It's in the chat.
That's a good one. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. So that segues us perfectly into our numbers. So we need to reverse engineer the amount that we want over the next 12 months, or whatever that time period is, whether it's 3 months, whether it's 12 months, whether it's 2 years, 3 years. I wouldn't go any further out than that. I really wouldn't go any further out than 12 months. Honestly, I wouldn't go any further out than 90 days, but we set 12-month plans so that we can create 90-day goals, okay, quarterly goals, or what Gino Wickman calls quarterly rocks, because we should be living in a 90-day world. My 12-month plan adjusts every 90 days, okay? There's a method to the madness. So, but first, we got to reverse engineer, how much do we want to make? Well, again, I said I did this spreadsheet for brokers initially because I was a broker at the time when I created it back in, I think it was 2015. when I created the spreadsheet, and I used it so that I knew how many calls I had to make every day as a real estate broker. And you'll see how that works here when we get to the spreadsheet. But we got to start identifying what are the metrics that we need to know. So we'll start with investors, and then I'll do one for brokers because I know we have a lot of brokers on here too. So what is our acquisition fee goal? Okay. It doesn't really work with monthly income or cash flow or passive income. So I tie it to an acquisition fee. It's easier to control how much you're getting on an annual basis in acquisition fee money than it is cash flow, because there's too many outside factors you can't control that will affect cash flow. I hope that makes sense to everybody. But we can control the acquisition fee we get. Knowing your numbers is all about what you can control, not what you can't control. Once we know that number, if that number is $500,000, we need to add a reinvestment percentage to that, because if you take 500 grand and you bring it to the house and you don't do anything with it but put it in the bank, go buy a house, go a bigger house, go buy a Ferrari and a Bentley and maybe a boat, and do what you see all these idiots on Facebook doing that are doing all these deals. If you do that, you're not going to ever build wealth. Okay. Maybe you're building your net worth, but you are not building your wealth. And net worth means nothing. It's unrealized gain on paper. That's all net worth is. For me, I want to build wealth. I want income from my passive investments to exceed my monthly expenses. That's wealth. That, to me, that's the definition of wealth. And I can't do that by buying boats and buying cars and buying houses. All right. So I'm going to reinvest some of that money. So what is that percentage? Then what's my average deal amount? So if I'm looking at $5 million transactions or 10 million, or maybe only 1 million or only 500,000, what's my average deal amount that I'm working on? Now, obviously, in the beginning, you're probably not going to know any of this information. That's okay, because we're going to give you, and you guys know I hate rule of thumbs, but you got to start somewhere. And so we're going to pro forma it your first year. After the first year, you'll be able to do this on your own because you're going to track those numbers. But if you haven't tracked numbers, or if you don't know because you're just starting, then you got to have a baseline. And I'll start you with the baseline when we get there. Okay, then what's that average acquisition fee? Should be about 1%. If you're splitting it with other people and you find the off-market opportunity, which is what this intensive is all about, the minimum you should be getting is 1%. And that's deal size, okay? So once we've got that information, now we got to get what are our ratios. So in order for you to get an acquisition fee, you've got to get a property under contract or give it to an investor that puts it under contract or a syndicator, and that contract has to close. Okay, that deal's got to close in order for you to get that acquisition fee. So what's that ratio? Contract to closing ratio. Of the opportunities I find from doing my marketing plan, implementing that marketing plan, from the opportunities that I find, from those opportunities, how many do I get under contract? From the appointments that I set, that first appointment with that owner, from that appointment to actually identify an opportunity, what is that ratio? From actually reaching the owner to first appointment, what is that ratio? Because you're not going to be able to get all the information out of them right away when you're first talking to them. You'll have to schedule a call later on. Sometimes you can get it all out on the first call, but typically you've got to schedule a separate call for anywhere from a 15 to a 45-minute time frame. And then of the attempts you make, or cold calls, to getting that contact reached, what is that ratio? Okay, so these are our ratios. These are the numbers that really matter. Once we have all that information, now we can identify what are the total number of closings I need to get that 500,000. How many total contracts do I need to get to those closings? How many total opportunities do I need to find to get the number of contracts to get to the closings? How many first appointments do I have to have in order to find the opportunities or in order to get contracts to get closings? And then how many decision makers do I need to reach to be able to get those first appointments? And how many attempts do I have to make in order to reach decision makers? Okay. So that this gets us to the number of daily attempts or calls that we need to make. And I put attempts because it's not always going to be just calls. It could be text messages. It could be direct messages. It could be emails. There could be multiple attempts, sending out letters, postcards, different things. Okay, those are attempts. How many attempts does it take to reach the decision maker? All right, and how many do we need on a daily basis? Now we can plan. Once we have all this information, now we can plan. All right, so for brokers, it's not much different, but it is a little different. Okay, so instead of acquisition fee, what's our commission goal? Okay, that net commission goal. And then if we're not the managing broker of the company, qualifying broker, managing broker, whatever your state calls it, you're going to have a company split. What is that company split? What's your average deal amount? That goes without saying. And then what is your average commission percentage? So instead of average acquisition fee percentage, now we're getting average commission percentage. Same thing, contract to closing, first appointment to contract, contract to first appointment, attempts to first appointment. Now, notice opportunities is not here, okay? For brokers, they're going after one of two things. They're either going after listings or they're going after buy rep agreements, okay? Either one, doesn't matter. This works for both. So we don't need the opportunities. You're going straight to that contract and then going from contract to that closing, okay? Whether it's a listing agreement or whether it's a purchase agreement from a buyer, all right? So it's a little condensed for brokers. But again, how many closings do we need? How many contracts do we need to get closed? How many first appointments do we need to get the contract? How many decision makers do we need to reach? What are our total number of attempts or cold calls needed to reach those decision makers, which gets us to our daily attempts or calls needed, okay? And again, if you're new, you're going to use a rule of thumb for your market. So that said, let's take a look at knowing your number spreadsheet. So for the VIPs and for the Platinums, you guys received this spreadsheet. You will notice I cannot click anywhere in, well, except my logo. You can't click anywhere in here except for these gray areas. These are your input cells. I protected this so you cannot break it. Okay, a lot of these stupid analyzers that you get from all these people, you can break them because they don't protect the cells. Well, I protected this so you can't break this, all right? If you want to change it, let me know. I will let you know what the code is to unprotect it so you can modify it and then protect it again using your own at that point, all right? I don't care if you do that, that's fine. But you can see here that if my net acquisition fee that I want to receive is $250,000 and I'm going to reinvest 50%, then I know I need a total of $500,000 in order to reinvest 50% and still bring $250,000 to the house. My average deal size, if it's $10 million, okay, and I'll show you how these numbers change when you change this information, and my average acquisition fee is 1%, and I know that 75% of deals that go under contract close, now 2 years ago, it would have been 100%. I didn't know any deals falling through, but now deals are falling through left and right. So that number may need to go a little lower as we get a little deeper into recession. Okay, opportunities I find a contract, pretty confident it's going to be 70%. Again, a year ago or 2 years ago, if you would bring a deal to a syndicator 2 years ago, this was probably 100% that they would take it and close on it, or at least get it to contract. From first appointment to actually identifying an opportunity, about 10%. First contact to getting that appointment, about 10%, okay? My numbers are higher, but I'm trying to put what the average would be, kind of rule of thumb from all the years I've been doing this. Number of attempts I make to actually reaching the decision maker, 20%. And then total weeks worked. Now, notice over here, I got how many vacation plans? Now, this is weekdays, okay? So 5 days a week. How many vacation days do I have planned? So if I'm going to take 2 weeks of vacation, then it's 10. How many sick days am I projecting? Well, if I know I'm going to be sick about a week out of the year, then I put 5. conference days, that's 2 weeks of conferences and 2 weeks of training. So my total weeks not prospecting is 7. There are 52 weeks in a year. So 7 minus 52 says I'm only working 45 weeks this year. So now that I know this information, I can get my total closings needed. So I need 5 transactions at $10 million per transaction in order to get a $500,000 gross of acquisition fee to reinvest 50% and bring 250 to the house. In order to get to 5 closings, I got to get under contract for 7 deals. I have to find 9 opportunities. I have to hold 89 appointments. I've got to talk to 889 people. I need to attempt to talk to 4,444 people. And because I'm only working 45 weeks this year, I need to make 20 contact attempts a day. You guys see how the spreadsheet works? Now, how helpful is this? Did I waste my time creating this?
No, love it.
Very helpful. This is great.
Tell me this wasn't worth the cost of the VIP, just this one spreadsheet. And this is only one of multiple spreadsheets that or multiple documents you're going to get. Okay. So that's for, oh, see there? Power surge. Good thing. Am I still connected to you guys?
Yep.
Yes.
Good. See? Battery backup. If you aren't invested in one and you have Zoom calls all day long, you need to get invested in one. All right, so let's look at the one for brokers. It's very, very similar. See? Very similar. So if my gross commission goal is 500,000 and my company split is 50%, which is very typical in a commercial real estate brokerage, then my net commission goal is going to be 250,000 that I can bring to the house. If my average sale price is $3 million, because I am working multifamily properties and my average sale commission is 3%, my contract to closing ratio is 75%. And that was my contract to closing ratio when I was a broker. My first appointment to contact ratio is 10%. My contract to first appointments, 10%, and calls to contact 20%. Very, very similar to what we saw with the investors. And again, working 45 weeks for the year, I know I need 6 closings. I know I have to go under contract or have 7 listings or go under contract with 7 buyers, that I need 74 appointments in order to get there, that I got to talk to 741 decision makers. I got to make 3,704 contacts. So I need to make 16 contacts a day, whether it be email, whether it be a phone call, direct message, text message, whatever that is. Okay. Same thing just for brokers. So both these spreadsheets are uploaded for you. All right. Any questions on knowing your numbers and how important it is to know those numbers?
Yeah. So I have a question, David. So I've already done this actually prior to this call. So based on my numbers, I need 360 total contacts. So that's why I told my team that we need to build a list of 400 to 700 total owners. Out of those total, our appointment rate based on our prior performance is 5.5%. We haven't closed on anything yet. However, I know that more experienced investors close on 10% of their appointments. So I set my
Oh, I did VIP. Okay.
at
I pay for this.
5%. So my question to you, David, is have you looked into using AI to making your cold calls for you?
I have not.
Yeah,
Not against it. But I didn't need it based on the numbers I just showed you.
Okay.
If I needed 80 calls a day, I would look into AI.
Yeah,
I can't make 80 calls a day.
exactly. Because we need 300 calls per day.
I'd say you're not doing your numbers correct, Jason. Maybe send me what it is you've done.
Okay.
Did you use this spreadsheet?
No, I built my
Use
own.
this spreadsheet and redo it. See what it tells you.
Okay.
Okay.
Where can I find this spreadsheet, maybe?
It's available in the members area for this intensive. But I'm going to make them available. I haven't uploaded them yet to Strategic Partnering Labs where you already have access.
Okay, please let me know when you upload it so that I can do that for you. Thank
Okay,
you.
I have a question.
go ahead.
Since, for example, how do we determine the percentage of the acquisition fee? Because, for example, I'm new.
Yep.
I find a deal.
Yep.
But are the sponsors or the syndicators are the ones who decide the percentage, I guess. You're correct.
Okay. So that's true, but you're the one that controls the deal. So before you give them even an ounce of information about the opportunity, you make them sign a document, a non-disclosure agreement, a non-circumvent agreement with a fee built into it that says you want 1% of the deal amount.
Okay.
Or 50% of the acquisition fee that the group charges. You're bringing an opportunity they don't have access to. You hold all the cards.
But they will ask me about what would be my participation in the GP section.
Well, if you're wanting participation, then you have to determine that. But what I'm talking about is you don't have to participate.
Okay.
You're just handing it off.
The commission of the acquisition fee. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
That's correct. Okay.
David, I just wanted to correct myself. I actually misspoke. You were correct. Based on my numbers, I do only have to make 80 calls per day. So
I still think it's going to be lower than that if you use the spreadsheets that I provided, Jason. I think you're missing something. It's just my guess. I don't know that for sure because I don't know your numbers, but utilize the spreadsheet and then come back and tell me what you found. Okay?
all right.
Awesome. All right, let's keep going. All right, so who knows who said this one? Do what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, whether you feel like it or not. This is the definition of self-discipline. Who said this? And it's in almost all his books. And he's got a lot of them. And every book, if you
Brian Tracy.
That's correct. Every book is 21 chapters. You guys ever notice that? Every single book he has ever done has 21 chapters. Talk about a system. And he's written a lot of books. Okay, this one specifically came out of No Excuses. One of my favorite books. I have two favorite books from Brian Tracy. No Excuses, which is all about self-discipline, and Eat That Frog, which is all about beating procrastination. Those are my two favorite books from Brian Tracy. Your plan. Okay, now we've learned what Smarter Framework is. We've got our what, we've got our why, and we've reverse engineered our numbers. Now it's time to create a plan. Okay, begin with the end in mind. Now that we're at the point where we know what we want to make, we've tied it to our ultimate goal and why we're doing all of this, why we're giving up that cushy job and those benefits and that salary in order to be an entrepreneur, we need a plan. So Gino Wickman calls it the 3-year vision. I love this. Visualize 3 years from now, what does X look like for you? Okay. Whatever that what was, reverse engineer it back to 3 years from now. And this will always change. So 6 months from now, you're not 2.5 years away from that 3-year vision. It's always 3 years. Every time you look at this, I do this every 90 days. Every 90 days, I look at my 3-year vision. What does it look like 3 years from now if I continue to do what I'm doing? And what do I need to change in order to get what I want 3 years from now? Okay, it helps with creating that plan. Once you know that, now you can create an annual plan, which is no different than saying your annual goals. Again, Gino Wickman calls it the annual plan or 12-month plan, which I happen to love. Okay, I don't create anything. Now, I did create those spreadsheets, but for the most part, I take what I've learned from all the different people that have been doing this for a very long period of time, and I just implement it to make it better for me. Okay, so I am not a follower. I am a student of a bunch of different people. Okay, and I always recommend the same to everybody, no matter who you are. Don't be a follower, be a student. Who said that? That is an actual quote. Who knows who said that? I'll give you a hint. He did
David
a 3-year
Monroe.
lunch. Say again?
It's you? Is that you?
No.
No, that's a Jim Rome quote.
That is Jim Rohn. Abso-freaking-lutely. Be a student, not a follower. Okay. So your annual plan needs to be 3 to 5 smarter goals. Michael Hyatt, he had a planner. It was called the Ultimate Planner, I think is what it was called. And I kind of took from about 3 or 4 different planners, his planner being one of them, and I created my own. And he had 10 annual goals in his planner. And for a long time, I would set 10 annual goals. And I never accomplished any of them. And it took me a long time to realize it was too much. I was trying to do too much in a 12-month period. When I identified that, I shrunk it down to about 3. And go figure, I accomplished all 3 goals the first time I did that. And I went, woohoo, I done figured this out. Okay. So 3 to 5 smarter goals for your annual plan. Now you're going to review those and you're going to adjust accordingly every 90 days. Do not be married to this annual plan. This is part of our business plan. We're business planning every time we goal set. And when you're business planning, business plans are fluid. It's a working document. It is never set in stone. You don't create a business plan, set it on a shelf and leave it there. It is constantly breathing and adjusting. Okay. So we're doing the same thing. Every 12 months, I reset my annual plan. From there, we have to create quarterly goals. For each annual goal that we have, we should be creating quarterly goals for those annual goals based on where we are over that 12-month period. So you want to have 2 to 4 smarter goals. Typically, I usually have about 3. There's a couple of times where I only had 2. And there's once or twice where I've had 4 since I identified and narrowed it down to 3 to 5 annual goals. Okay. And you need to tie it to your why. Your quarterly goals should be tied to your why. Why did you choose this goal? Okay. Why are you going to, for the next 90 days, work feverishly to try to do this? And so when you hit that roadblock, when you get stressed, overwhelmed, tired, you can go back to that why and say, okay, yeah, this is why I'm doing this. All right. Keeps you moving forward. So who said this? Simple daily decisions drive your destiny. I give you a hint. His business partner's Tony Robbins.
Dean?
Dean Graziosi. Love this one. Simple daily decisions drive your destiny. Abso-freaking-lutely. Okay. So in order to get to those simple daily decisions, we got to have action steps. So your action steps are tied to those quarterly goals, right? This is the most important part of goal setting. I realized, and I had created my planner, and in my planner, if you look, this is today's. So, and I can't see this, so I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but if you look in there, you'll see that, well, not that one. Hold on. Let me go to, I don't have the quarterly goal written on there, but you'll notice, see where there is action steps in the quarterly goal. So this is a quarterly goal sheet that I use for those of you that have your cameras on or can see what I'm looking at right here. And again, I don't know if you can see it or not because I'm not seeing everybody's image or mine because of presentation view, but when you're setting that quarterly goal, those action steps are the most important part. And it took me a long time to realize, even after I created my planner, no, Michael, I'll give you the planner. You don't need to purchase it. Madeline, so you didn't change your name again. When I realized that the action steps were really what made me see the future and actually identify, and all I did was, it was the same time I'd realized that I couldn't do 10 annual goals. And so as I was really paying attention and I wrote down my quarterly goals for those annual goals, I did my first one and I just kind of followed my own process. And I wrote the goal down using the SMARTER framework. And then I wrote my why as to why I wanted that goal, so I could always go back to it. And then action steps that I need to take to reach this goal. So I sat down and I thought about it. What are the action steps that I have to do in order to attain this? And I started listing those on the worksheet. And then the epiphany hit me. And I was like, oh, holy crap. If I do this, I'll achieve this goal. And that's when it hit me. It is those action steps that matter. The rest of goal setting, you need it so that you can reverse engineer back to those action steps. But it is the most important thing. It's where it brings it all together. Okay. So what steps do you need to take to achieve that quarterly goal? And these action steps then can become your weekly goals. All right. They don't have to be, but if you need to start thinking, you go back, you look at the, okay, what quarterly goals did I set? You're doing your weekly goal setting, which I do every Monday morning at 4 a.m. You look back at it and you say, okay, what do I need to do this week? I can go look at my quarterly goals and say, where am I right now? What needs work? Okay, I'm going to work on this quarterly goal this week. And then I can look at my action steps and say, okay, what action steps? Where am I at? What do I need to do in order to attain this goal? And then I can write down two to four. There's places for 3 in my planner, but you can write 2 to 4. Sometimes I have 2, sometimes I have 4. Most of the time I have 3 weekly goals that were my action steps from that quarterly goal. Okay. If done right, you can actually see the future. Okay. Let's see. I've always been mind mapping. Yep. Okay. Yeah. I love mind maps. I don't really use them anymore since I had this system. Let's see. Tico had a question up here. You really give me a lot of hope. Oh, well, thank you, bud. I appreciate that. All right. So let's take a look at our strategic goals worksheet. Okay. So here's the worksheet that came with VIP and Platinum, or the strategic partnering members will also get access to this, but you guys don't have it there yet. Okay. 3-year vision. This is a fillable form. So you can just write down whatever it is that you see 3 years from now. It's just a statement. What does your situation look like 3 years from now based on your what? Your definite chief aim, that 10-year target, okay? From there, we create that 1-year plan, list 3 to 5 12-month goals, that 1-year plan. From there, you scroll down to the second page, you have quarterly goals that you can write here, 2 to 4 quarterly goals. And then what are the action steps that you need to take to achieve these goals? Okay, so we've got 2 spaces for action steps. If you need another sheet, you can just hit File, Save As, and create a -2 so that you can use a second sheet. All right, it's that simple. I just provided this sheet for you. All right, so you didn't have to have this big old honking quarterly planner that I use every single quarter. All right. So, action steps moving forward. Determine your what, okay? That definite chief aim, that 10-year target. Determine your why. Go 7 levels deep if you can. Some people don't always get there, but if you can, and if at 5 you have a tear flowing at 5, you're probably good. Okay, you've hit your why. Reverse engineer your 12-month financial goal. Create your 3-year vision. Create your 12-month plan, determine your quarterly goals, and then create the action steps to meet those quarterly goals.